Hello and welcome to another Lamp Bible study. I thank you very much for joining me once again on another reading of the Holy Word. I pray that we continue to seek God's wisdom together. And so where we left off is in Numbers. We will be starting today in Numbers 31. My name is James and I will continue to be your host of Lamp Bible Study. I am reading from a Collegiate NIV Bible. So again, today has been a very interesting day, so I wonder and hope to figure out what has gone on for the day within today's Bible study. So let's go ahead and start reading. Vengeance on the Midianites. The Lord said to Moses, "Take vengeance on the Midianites for the Israelites. After that, you will be gathered to your people." So Moses said to the people, "Arm some of your men to go to war against the Midianites and carry out the Lord's vengeance on them. Send into battle 1,000 men from each of the tribes of Israel." So 12,000 men armed for battle, 1,000 from each tribe, were supplied from the clans of Israel. Moses sent them into battle, 1,000 from each tribe, along with Phinehas, son of Eleazar, the priest, who took with him articles from the sanctuary and the trumpets for signaling. So where we are is, remember now Moses is of age. He is more mature now, and he has been basically called to the Lord. Basically, Moses is going to die soon, and he has already handed off leadership, or will be handing off leadership, to Joshua. And so this is during the Old Testament, again, under the law, right after Israel had left Egypt, and they had been wandering around for now almost the full 40 years. And so most of the people had died off of the generation that continued to rebel against the Lord and his requests. And so now you have the start of the younger generation, and at this point, the Lord is wanting them to take vengeance on the Midianites. A little bit of backstory is the Midianites were, again, people that were against the Lord. They had worshiped gods, and they were doing the abhorrent things that the Lord were sent, basically. And so now Israel is going to to get rid of the Midianites, and the Lord was going to battle with them and for them. So let's continue to read. They fought against Midian as the Lord commanded Moses, and killed every man. Among their victims was Evi, Rechem, Zur, Hur, and Reba, the 5 kings of Midian. They also killed Balaam, son of Beor, with the sword. The Israelites captured the Midianite women and children and took all the Midianite herds, flocks, and goods as plunder. They burned all the towns where the Midianites had settled, as well as their camps. They took all the plunder and spoils, including the people and animals, and brought the captive spoils and plunder to Moses and Eleazar the priest and the Israelite assembly at their camp on the plains of Moab, by the Jordan across from Jericho. So once again, there's a lot here. Again, Eleazar the priest was the priest that killed the man who was already in a relationship with a Midianite woman, and because of the false worship and the worshiping of idols and the abhorrent things that were going on, because the Midianites were leading Israel astray. Eleazar was one of the ones that had killed the man and stopped the plague that was happening, that was killing the Israelites. Also, remember that the Midianites had their king, Balaam. Balaam went to seek Balak to put a curse on Israel. So remember, the Midianites were already against Israel, full on, including trying to obtain divinations and sorcery to go against God's people. And God's not going to have that. And this is the time now he's showing that he's going to get vengeance. He's going to take the Midians out at this time. And that's what happened. They killed Balaam, son of Beor. Even though he had tried to ruined them before. And now that his future has shown, he was trying to go against the Lord's people, and he was killed because of it. And also, the people of Midian were taken out because they were trying to lead Israel astray in their own worship and their own religion and idol worshiping and such. So now this is the end of the Midianite people. Moses, Eleazar the priest, and all the leaders of the community went to meet them outside the camp. Moses was angry with the officers of the army, the commanders of thousands and commanders of hundreds who returned from the battle. "Have you allowed all the women to live?" he asked them. They were the ones who followed Balaam's advice and were the means of turning the Israelites away from the Lord in what happened at Peor, so that a plague struck the Lord's people. Now kill all the boys and kill every woman who has slept with a man, but save for yourselves every girl who has never slept with a man. All of you who have killed anyone or touched anyone who has killed must stay outside the camp 7 days. On the 3rd and 7th days, you must purify yourselves and your captives. Purify every garment as well as everything made of leather, goat hair, or wood. Then Eleazar the priest said to the soldiers who had gone into battle, "This is the requirement of the law that the Lord gave Moses. Gold, silver, bronze, iron, tin, lead, and anything else that can withstand fire must be put through the fire, and then it will be clean. But it must also be purified with the water of cleansing, and whatever cannot withstand fire must be put through that water. On the 7th day, wash your clothes, and you will be clean. Then you may come into the camp." Remember that they were living with the Lord. The Lord was residing with them, and so they had to maintain their holiness and by keeping themselves cleansed. And so if they were not clean, then they had to reside outside of the camp, and they had to go through the process to clean themselves, to cleanse themselves of the sin. And then once they were clean of the sin, they could return to camp. So from this few verses that we have read, what kind of ideas or thoughts come into your mind? Do you remember how we were read in the previous Bible study that about Balaam and Balak, and what Balaam tried to have Balak do, and how Balak instead blessed the Lord's people, and then went as far as giving a prophecy, and how important that was, because the prophecy may have been not only proclaiming the first instances, or one of the instances of Balak, and so Balaam was the person that was end up giving the prophecy, but he ended up also not only blessing the Israel, but he also did the prophecy that was particularly possibly one of the first signs of Jesus, and also all the way into the future to the end where the devil will be routed. So what are your thoughts and feelings? Could you imagine, this is the younger generation now taking over and destroying and getting vengeance on the Midianites. However, they came back with spoils, including women and children, instead of fully destroying the Midianites. And so Moses was angry. Moses was angry and said, "Hey, why are you bringing these people back when they were the reason why you were led astray? This is the reason why there was a plague. The Lord had released a plague among the people because they immediately started sinning and go against the Lord." And so Moses got direction, and Eleazar, the priest as well, and they gave them direction to cleanse themselves and what to do with the spoils. If you were living at that time, under the law and during this time, how would you feel? Would you feel angry just as Moses did? What would it make you think? Let's continue to read. Dividing the spoils. The Lord said to Moses, "You and Eleazar the priest and the family heads of the community are to count all the people and animals that were captured. Divide the spoils between the soldiers who took part in the battle and the rest of the community. From the soldiers who fought in the battle, set apart as tribute for the Lord one out of every 500, whether persons, cattle, donkeys, sheep, or goats. Take this tribute from their half share and give it to Eleazar the priest as the Lord's part. From the Israelites' half, select one out of every 50, whether person, cattle, donkeys, sheep, goats, or other animals. Give them to the Levites, who are responsible for the care of the Lord's tabernacle." So Moses and Eleazar the priest did as the Lord commanded Moses. The plunder remaining from the spoils that the soldiers took was 675,000 sheep, 72,000 cattle, 61,000 donkeys, and 32,000 women who had never slept with a man. The half share of those who fought in the battle was 337,500 sheep, of which the tribute for the Lord was 675. 36,000 cattle, of which the tribute for the Lord was 72. 30,500 donkeys, of which the tribute for the Lord was 61. 16,000 people, of which the tribute for the Lord was 32. Moses gave the tribute to Eleazar the priest as the Lord's part, as the Lord commanded Moses. The half belonging to the Israelites, which Moses set apart from that of the fighting men, the community's half was 337,500 sheep, 36,000 cattle, 30,500 donkeys, and 16,000 people. From the Israelites' half, Moses selected one out of every 50 persons and animals as the Lord commanded him, and gave them to the Levites, who were responsible for the care of the Lord's tabernacle. Then the officers who were over the units of the army, the commanders of thousands and commanders of hundreds, went to Moses and said to him, "Your servants have counted the soldiers under our command, and not one is missing. So we have brought as an offering to the Lord the gold articles each of us acquired, armlets, bracelets, signet rings, earrings, and necklaces, to make atonement for yourselves before the Lord." Moses and Eleazar the priest accepted from them the gold, all the crafted articles. All the gold from the commanders of thousands and commanders of hundreds that Moses and Eleazar presented as a gift to the Lord weighed 16,750 shekels. Each soldier had taken plunder for himself. Moses and Eleazar the priest accepted the gold from the commanders of thousands and commanders of hundreds and brought it into the tent of meeting as a memorial for the Israelites before the Lord. So isn't that amazing? The Lord had them go, 12,000 men, to fight against the Midianites, and not only did they succeed, but none of them were killed. None of them were killed. And so every one of them came back to the Israelites community. And then they had a lot of spoil. And so not only did they give as the Lord requested, but they also gave additional, which is the gold, because the commanders noticed that no one had went missing. And so they were giving freely, which is amazing. It's something that we do. Think about it. When something good happens, even if it's something small, like somebody gives you $5 or somebody gives you a thank you, and do you also thank the Lord? Does the Lord even come up in your mind when something positive happens? I know for me, there's a lot of times where something could happen, like I get it. It's not my birthday, but somebody hands me a gift card and says thank you for your help or something, or somebody does something for me, and I think, it's great. It's good to thank them, but in the back of my mind, sometimes I also thank the Lord when I remember. But I'm guilty of it. I'm guilty of not always thinking immediately that this is something from the Lord. Eventually I do. It happens fairly quickly because I do meditate on the word as much as possible, as much as I can think. But sometimes I miss those things as well. Because even the small things, somebody hold the door open for you. you know, those are those are not just for you. They're a blessing. They're a blessing, and they're from the Lord. Everything good comes from above. And so we have to think about that, whether it's big or small. Do we take advantage of those times? Do we, like I mentioned, do we take advantage and not even think of the Lord, or just think, oh, well, this is normal? Or, someone holding a door open for you is normal. That's what they should be doing. Is that your pride speaking? Is that our dignity or in pride speaking? When we think of those things, are we thinking correctly? Are we thinking humbly? Not only thinking the person, but thinking the Lord at the same time, for that idea to be in their head and them to follow through with even holding the door open for you. Think about those things, because even the little things count. And the Lord also wants us to give freely. So when those things happen, even if they're so small as someone giving you a hand, think of the Lord and thank Him, and give freely of your thanks and praise. Sometimes I've said thank you and praise the Lord, thank you, Jesus. And sometimes I get back, amen. A little bit of a shock, but amen. And I say, God bless. And so think about those things. And how does it make you feel when you read about this? How they went to battle and all of them came back with spoils and riches, and then they gave freely. What does it make you think? Let's continue to read. The Transjordan tribes. The Reubenites and Gadites, who had very large herds and flocks, saw that the lands of Jazer and Gilead were suitable for livestock. So they came to Moses and Eleazar the priests and to the leaders of the community and said, At Haroth, Dibon, Jazer, Nimrah, Heshbon, Elilal, Sebim, Nebo, and Beon, the land the Lord subdued before the people of Israel are suitable for livestock, and your servants have livestock. If we have found favor in your eyes, they said, let this land be given to your servants as our possession. Do not make us cross the Jordan. Moses said to the Gadites and Reubenites, shall your countrymen go to war while you sit here? Why do you discourage the Israelites from going over into the land the Lord has given them? This is what your fathers did when I sent them from Kadesh Barnea to look over the land. After they went up to the valley of Eshcol and viewed the land, they discouraged the Israelites from entering the land the Lord had given them. The Lord's anger was aroused that day, and He swore this oath. Because they have not followed me wholeheartedly, not one of the men 20 years old or more who came out of Egypt will see the land I promised an oath to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Not one except Caleb, son of Jephunneh, and the Kizanite, and Joshua, son of Nun, for they followed the Lord wholeheartedly. The Lord's anger burned against Israel, and He made them wander in the desert 40 years, until the whole generation of those who had done evil in His sight was gone. And so now you have a couple of the tribes wanting to stay on the other side of the Jordan before the Promised Land, because they were seeing that the land was acceptable to them, and so they wanted to go ahead and utilize it because they were herdsmen, and so they were requesting for Moses to stay on the other side. However, Moses was feeling that maybe that they were wanting to stay on the other side because they didn't want to go and battle. They wouldn't want Israel to go and battle in full force against their enemies to take over the promised land, the Canaanites, the land of the Canaanites. And so that's why Moses is telling them, we already sent people out and they came back with a report, and that the land was good. However, that we were not strong enough to take over the land. And so the Lord had punished them, that generation that would not see the promised land. And so Moses is not wanting this to happen again. And so let's continue to read. And here you are, a brood of sinners, standing in the place of your fathers and making the Lord even more angry with Israel. If you turn away from following him, he will again leave all this people in the desert, and you will be the cause of their destruction. Then they came up to him and said, we would like to build pens here for our livestock and cities for our women and children, but we are ready to arm ourselves and go ahead of the Israelites until we have brought them to their place. Meanwhile, our women and children will live in fortified cities for protection from the inhabitants of the land. We will not return to our homes until every Israelite has received his inheritance. We will not receive any inheritance with them on the other side of the Jordan, because our inheritance has come to us on the east side of the Jordan. Then Moses said to them, if you will do this, if you will arm yourselves before the Lord for battle, and if all of you will go armed over the Jordan before the Lord until he has driven his enemies out before him, then when the land is subdued before the Lord, you may return and be free from your obligation to the Lord and to Israel. And this land will be your possession before the Lord. But if you fail to do this, you will be sinning against the Lord, and you may be sure that your sin will find you out. Build cities for your women and children and pens for your flocks, but do what you have promised. The Gadites and Reubenites said to Moses, we, your servants, will do as our Lord commands. Our children and wives, our flocks and herds will remain here in the cities of Gilead. But your servants, every man armed for battle, will cross over to fight before the Lord, just as our Lord says. Then Moses gave orders about them to Eleazar the priest and Joshua son of Nun, and to the family heads of the Israelite tribes. He said to them, if the Gadites and Reubenites, every man armed for battle, cross over the Jordan with you before the Lord, then when the land is subdued before you, give them the land of Gilead as their possession. But if they do not cross over with you armed, they must accept their possession with you in Canaan. The Gadites and Reubenites answered, your servants will do what the Lord has said. We will cross over before the Lord into Canaan armed, but the property we inherit will be on this side of the Jordan. Then Moses gave to the Gadites, the Reubenites, and half tribe of Manasseh, son of Joseph, the kingdom of Sihon, king of the Amorites, and the kingdom of Og, king of Bashan, the whole land with its cities and the territory around them. The Gadites built up Dibon, Ataroth, Aror, Ataroth, Shaphan, Jazer, Jogbeh, Beth Nimrah, and Beth Haran as fortified cities, and built pens for their flocks. And the Reubenites rebuilt Heshbon, Elilel, and Kirithaim, as well as Nebu and Baal-meon. These names were changed into Sibmah. They gave names to the cities they rebuilt. The descendants of Machir, son of Manasseh, went to Gilead, captured it, and drove out the Amorites who were there. So Moses gave Gilead to the Machirites, the descendants of Manasseh, and they settled there. Jar, a descendant of Manasseh, captured their settlements and called them Hevavoth Jar. And Nobah captured Kenath and its surrounding settlements and called it Nobah after himself. So a little bit of difficult words for me. I'm going to continue here. There's some more coming up. Just heads up on that. So if you do know the correct pronunciations, go ahead and say them. If you want to give a note on correct pronunciations in the comments, please do so. But there was a lot here, when it comes to what we just talked about. We just, a couple of the tribes wanted to stay on the current side of the Jordan, but they were told that, or actually they offered to fight for Israel on the other side of the Jordan in order to maintain their side, the other side, to live on the other side as their inheritance. So Moses agreed, and that as long as they went, and he brought them before Eleazar and Joshua to announce this agreement, that as long as they went and fought with Israel as their brothers, then and completely fought until the land was subdued, then they could return. Otherwise, if they didn't go and fight, then they had to take inheritance on the other side of the Jordan. And so with that agreement, how does it make you feel? Like, what kind of things or emotions come to mind when we read this portion? How does it make you feel? What does it make you think? Let's continue to read. Stages in Israel's journey. Here are the stages in the journey of the Israelites when they came out of Egypt by divisions under the leadership of Moses and Aaron. At the Lord's command, Moses recorded the stages in their journey. This is their journey by stages. The Israelites set out from Ramses on the 15th day of the first month, the day after the Passover. They marched out boldly in full view of all the Egyptians who were burying all their firstborn, whom the Lord had struck down among them. For the Lord had brought judgment on their gods. The Israelites left Ramses and camped at Succoth. They left Succoth and camped at Etham on the edge of the desert. They left Etham, turned back to Pi-Hahiroth, to the east of Baal Zephon, and camped near Migdol. They left Pi-Hahiroth and passed through the sea into the desert, and when they had traveled for 3 days in the desert of Etham, they camped at Merah. They left Merah and went to Elim, where there were 12 springs and 70 palm trees, and they camped there. They left Elim and camped by the Red Sea. They left the Red Sea and camped in the desert of Sin. They left the desert of Sin and camped at Dophkah. They left Dophkah and camped at Alush. They left Alush and camped at Rephidim, where there was no water for the people to drink. They left Rephidim and camped in the desert of Sinai. They left the desert of Sinai and camped at Kibroth Hattaavah. They left Kibroth Hattaavah and camped at Hazeroth. They left Hazeroth and camped Rithmah. They left Rithmah and camped Rimmon Perez. They left Rimmon Perez and camped at Libnah. They left Libnah and camped at Rissah. They left Rissah and camped at Kehalatha. They left Kehalatha and camped at Mount Shephar. They left Mount Shephar and camped at Heradah. They left Heradah and camped at Mekaholoth. They left Mekaholoth and camped at Tahath. They left Tahath and camped at Terah. They left Terah and camped at Mithkah. They left Mithkah and camped at Hashmanah. They left Hashmanah and camped at Meseroth. They left Meseroth and camped at Bene Jachan. They left Bene Jachan and camped at Hor Haggidgad. They left Hor Haggidgad and camped at Jotpethah. They left Jotpethah and camped at Abronah. They left Abronah and camped at Ezon Geber. They left Ezon Geber and camped at Kadesh in the desert of Zin. They left Kadesh and camped at Mount Hor on the border of Edom. The Lord's command, Aaron the priest went up Mount Hor, where he died on the first day of the fifth month of the 40th year after the Israelites came out of Egypt. Aaron was 123 years old when he died on Mount Hor. The Canaanite king of Arad, who lived in the Negev of Canaan, heard that the Israelites were coming. They left Mount Hor and camped at Zalmanah. They left Zalmanah and camped at Punon. They left Punon and camped at Oboth. They left Oboth and camped at Lai-Ibrim on the border of Moab. They left Eyam and camped at Dibon-Gad. They left Dibon-Gad and camped at Almon-Diblathaim. They left Almon-Diblathaim and camped in the mountains of Abarim near Nebo. They left the mountains of Abarim and camped on the plains of Moab by the Jordan across from Jericho. There on the plains of Moab they camped along the Jordan from Beth Jeshimoth to Abel Shittim. And so if some of those areas or cities or towns or places sounded familiar, it's because some of them were. So they had camped there once, and then they had circled and camped at another place, or camped at that same place again. So a couple of times they camped in the same places around, because remember, they were going to go into the promised land, but because this original generation rebelled against the Lord consistently, they were not able to move into the promised land, so they were wandering the desert, wandering the wasteland, basically. And so it's showing us the path that they took, and this is all important because this are places and things that they were documenting to show their movement and how all the tribes moved together. And again, the Lord was still with them and present and guiding them throughout their travels. How does it make you feel, and what does it make you think? Let's continue to read. On the plains of Moab by the Jordan, across from Jericho, the Lord said to Moses, "Speak to the Israelites and say to them, when you cross the Jordan into Canaan, drive out all the inhabitants of the land before you. Destroy all their carved images and their cast idols, and demolish all their high places. Take possession of the land and settle in it, for I have given you the land to possess. Distribute the land by lot, according to your clans. To a larger group give a larger inheritance, and to a smaller group a smaller one. Whatever falls to them by lot will be theirs. Distribute it according to your ancestral tribes. But if you do not drive out the inhabitants of the land, those you allow to remain will become barbs in your eyes and thorns in your sides. They will give you trouble in the land where you will live, and then I will do to you what I plan to do to them." So this is very important right here. Very, very important. Let me go back. So it says when you cross the Jordan into Canaan, drive out all the inhabitants of the land before you, destroy all their carved images and their cast idols, and demolish all their high places. And he also says, but if you do not drive out the inhabitants of the land, those you allow to remain will become barbs in your eyes and thorns in your sides. They will give you trouble in the land where you will live, and then I will do to you what I plan to do to them. So this is very important, because this is going to tell us what the Lord's already warning them, that they need to get rid of all the inhabitants as he's requesting, or these people would become a barb, like a stumbling block. And we'll see what happens, if they're able to follow through or not. And so the Lord's already giving them a warning. He's giving them direction and a warning. And so through our life, I believe that happens to us too. I believe through our prayer and through our reading, sometimes we're given instruction, and do we do those things all the time? Are there consequences for not doing them? Have you experienced it? Have you experienced something that you know, or you believe you were told to do something, or thought you were told to do something, and you didn't do it, and sure enough, there was a consequence? Do those things happen? Have you been through something similar to that? Think about that in your life as well. Because, again, yes, this is the Old Testament. This, again, under Moses and the law and such. But a lot of this relates. It's the past, present, and the future. The Holy Word can allow for us to think of ideas, and think of things that relate to us. They may not relate exactly how we read them, but they are very close. Some are exactly how we read them. How does it make you feel? What does it make you think? Let's continue to read. Boundaries of Canaan. The Lord said to Moses, "Command the Israelites and say to them, when you enter Canaan, the land that will be allotted to you as an inheritance will have these boundaries. Your southern side will include some of the desert of Zin along the border of Edom. On the east, your southern border will start from the end of the Salt Sea across south of Scorpion Pass, continue on to Zin, and go south of Kadesh Barnea. Then it will go to Hazar Adar and over to Asmon, where it will turn, join the Wadi of Egypt, and end at the sea. Your western boundary will be the coast of the Great Sea. This will be your boundary on the west. For your northern boundary, run a line from the Great Sea to Mount Hor, and from Mount Hor to Lebo Hamath. Then the boundary will go to Zedad, continue to Siphron, and end at Hazar Enan. This will be your boundary on the north. For your eastern boundary, run a line from Hazar Enan to Shepham. The boundary will go down from Shepham to Riblah on the east side of Ain, and continue along the slopes east of the Sea of Kinnereth. Then the boundary will go down along the Jordan and end at the Salt Sea. This will be your land and its boundaries on every side. Moses commanded the Israelites, "Assign this land by lot as an inheritance. The Lord has ordered that it be given to the 9.5 tribes, because the families of the tribe of Reuben, the tribe of Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh have received their inheritance. These 2.5 tribes have received their inheritance on the east side of the Jordan of Jericho toward the sunrise." The Lord said to Moses, "These are the names of the men who are to assign the land for you as an inheritance: Eleazar the priest and Joshua son of Nun. And appoint one leader from each tribe to help assign the land. These are their names: Caleb son of Jephunneh from the tribe of Judah, Shemuel son of Amihud from the tribe of Simeon, Elidad son of Kislon from the tribe of Benjamin, Buki son of Jogli, the leader from the tribe of Dan, Haniel son of Ipod, the leader from the tribe of Manasseh, son of Joseph, Kemuel son of Shipton, the leader from the tribe of Ephraim, son of Joseph, Elisaphan son of Parnak, the leader from the tribe of Zebulun, Paltiel son of Azan, the leader from the tribe of Issachar, Ehud son of Shelami, the leader from the tribe of Asher, Petahiel son of Amihud, the leader from the tribe of Naphtali. These are the men the Lord commanded to assign the inheritance to the Israelites in the land of Canaan. So this is what the instructions that the Lord is giving Moses, due to the fact that 2.5 of the tribes wanted to go ahead and have their inheritance, their promised land, on the other side of the Jordan, the side that they're currently on, because they saw that it was fit for them to go ahead and live there. You know, they were accepting of the promised land that they saw was acceptable to them. And guess what? The Lord said, okay. And So think about that. Think about asking for things or seeking things or seeing something that you may want or that you think you may want and going to God for that. Because sometimes the Lord says, okay. I mean, think about it. It could be anything. It could be something spiritual. It could be something physical. It could even be something, as what people tend to think is worldly, a car, a house, a property, or something of value. And, go to the Lord for it and ask. Because sometimes, yeah, absolutely. Is it awful to get things or to have things? No. Just remember, don't hold those things in reverence as high as the Lord. Don't praise the property. Don't worship the car. Don't worship the house or pray, make praises to these items that will return to dust. Just be grateful and humble because the Lord is there. He's there to say, yeah, because he loves us that much. If it's good, and another thing, think about it. What's good, everything good comes from the Lord. So the Lord already knows, the Lord already knows you're going to ask for it. The Lord may have already prepared it for it. That may have been the thing that you were going to get. He's just waiting on you to ask him, to talk to him. So that's another thing to look at this. The people of the tribes of Israel saw that the land was good where they were at and wanted to go ahead and stay and reside there and live there and have children and create a community there. And they were able to do so. As long as, of course, they followed going into battle with their brothers and making sure that the rest of Israel got their inheritance as well. And that's another thing. So sometimes you may have to work for it. You may have to work for a car, or you may have to work for a relationship, or you may have to work for a certain thing. But going to God first and allowing the Lord to speak to you, because sometimes the Lord will say, hey, yeah, it's in your grasp, but you're going to need to continue to move on. You're going to need to continue to work hard. You're going to need to continue to do what you need to do. And still remember me. Still remember who provided that opportunity. How does it make you feel? And what does it make you think? Are there times that has happened in your life? Have you taken that to the Lord? So far what I'm getting from this is taking things to the Lord, whether it be big or small, and thanking him for it. Thanking the Lord for the opportunities, for the good things, for that door being open for you, for someone giving you a hand. Whether it be someone mowing your lawn, someone smiling and waving at you, a stranger, little, even things that are little, but are not little. They really, truly are not little. Because even what you think, what we as humans think are little things, are truly significant. It can change someone. A wave, a smile, a greeting can change someone, their day. It can change how they're feeling. It could bring them out of that rut, that sin maybe even that they were potentially intending to do. There's so many different ways to think about the small things and the big things. As we as humans get big things, do we stop and thank the Lord? Do we praise the Lord for obtaining those big things? Or do we just say, thank you, Jesus, and move on and just be super happy? Because it's, at the end of the day, it's not of us, it's of the Lord. So think about that. And see how that works in your life. See if that has worked in your life, if you have examples. Because even the little things, are important. So let's continue to read. Towns for the Levites. On the plains of Moab, by the Jordan, across from Jericho, the Lord said to Moses, "Command the Israelites to give the Levites towns to live in from the inheritance the Israelites will possess, and give them pasture lands around the towns. Then they will have towns to live in and pasture lands for their cattle, flocks, and all their other livestock. The pasture lands around the towns that you give the Levites will extend out 1,500 feet from the town wall. Outside the town, measure 3,000 feet on the east side, 3,000 on the south side, 3,000 on the west side. 3,000 on the west and 3,000 on the north, with the town in the center. They will have this area as pasture land for the towns." So now the Lord's giving them direction for the Levites, for the Levites' pasture lands of the towns. So you're thinking, why do the Levites need pasture lands? Remember, they were given livestock, and the livestock was to be presented before the Lord as an offering, as an offering or for festivals. So that's why. And we have read about the Israelites providing cattle and such for 4 times of festivals and 4 times of offerings. Cities of refuge. 6 of the towns you give the Levites will be cities of refuge, to which a person who has killed someone may flee. In addition, give them 42 other towns. In all, you must give the Levites 48 towns, together with their pasture lands. The towns you give the Levites from the land the Israelites possess are to be given in proportion to the inheritance of each tribe. Take many towns from a tribe that has many, but few from one that has few. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Speak to the Israelites and say to them, when you cross the Jordan into Canaan, select some towns to be your cities of refuge, to which a person who has killed someone accidentally may flee. They will be places of refuge from the avenger, so that a person accused of murder may not die before he stands trial before the assembly. These 6 towns you give will be your cities of refuge. Give 3 on this side of the Jordan and 3 in Canaan as cities of refuge. These 6 towns will be a place of refuge for Israelites, aliens, and any other people living among them, so that anyone who has killed another accidentally can flee there. If a man strikes someone with an iron object so that he dies, he is a murderer. The murderer shall be put to death. Or if anyone has a stone in his hand that could kill and he strikes someone so that he dies, he is a murderer. The murderer shall be put to death. Or if anyone who has a wooden object in his hand that could kill and he hits someone so that he dies, he is a murderer. The murderer shall be put to death. The avenger of blood shall put the murderer to death. When he meets him, he shall put him to death. If anyone with malice aforethought shoves another or throws something at him intentionally so that he dies, or if in hostility he hits him with his fist so that he dies, the person shall be put to death. He is a murderer. The avenger of blood shall put the murderer to death when he meets him. But if without hostility someone suddenly shoves another or throws something at him unintentionally, or without seeing him, drops a stone on him that could kill him, and he dies, then since he was not his enemy and he did not intend to harm him, the assembly must judge between him and the avenger of blood according to these regulations. The assembly must protect the one accused of murder from the avenger of blood and send him back to the city of refuge to which he fled. He must stay there until the death of the high priest, who was anointed with the holy oil. But if the accused ever goes outside the limits of the city of refuge to which he has fled, and the avenger of blood finds him outside the city, the avenger of blood may kill the accused without being guilty of murder. The accused must stay in his city of refuge until the death of the high priest. Only after the death of the high priest may he return to his own property. These are to be legal requirements for you throughout the generations to come, wherever you live. Anyone who kills a person is to be put to death as a murderer only on the testimony of witnesses. But no one is to be put to death on the testimony of only one witness. Do not accept a ransom for the life of a murderer who deserves to die. He must surely be put to death. Do not accept a ransom for anyone who has fled to a city of refuge, and so allow him to go back and live on his own land before the death of the high priest. Do not pollute the land where you are. Bloodshed pollutes the land. An atonement cannot be made for the land on which blood has been shed, except by the blood of the one who shed it. Do not defile the land where you live and where I dwell, for I, the Lord, dwell among the Israelites. So remember, this is, again, back in the law, back in the Old Testament, and these are the requirements. So if someone kills somebody, they're a murderer, because it was intentional. And so the requirement is that the avenger of blood could kill that person. And so you also have unintentional. So things happen and someone dies unintentionally by someone else. And so with that, the person that accidentally killed somebody would need to flee to one of these cities because, of course, the other person may have not seen it or noticed that, there may have not been enough witnesses. And so it could have been just a one-on-one matter. So the person would flee to one of these refuge cities, these safe cities, in order to have a trial. And then the avenger of blood would end up typically showing up in one of these safe cities to go to the trial, to say that this person killed or murdered, and then it would be the people that would be the decision maker to decide whether or not it was intentional, with facts and such. But this is to make sure to keep the people holy, to keep the people following the rules and guidance of the law, and so that the Lord would live with them. And we'll see just how well they do. I'll just give you a little hint. We have Jesus now. That's how well they did. This is another reason why we needed Jesus so badly. And so they were to have, safe havens. And so another part is, the person who unintentionally killed a person, they would have to live in the city until the priest of that city passed away. So similar to like the year of Jubilee, but in this case, once the priest passed away, everything returned. Everything was cleansed, made correct. I don't know about cleanse, but made correct. And so the person would get to go home since the time was done, and a new priest would come, be anointed in that town. But if that person were to leave before the priest died, then the person who was the avenger of blood could kill them. They could kill the accused, because basically the person was not following instruction. He was basically being sinful himself, whether it's pride or whatever it may be. He wasn't following instruction. So the guilt went back on the person. And the avenger of blood could get the avenge at that time, get the revenge. And so you have these places. You had a total of 6 cities, 3 on one side of the Jordan and 3 on the other. And as you can see, included the size and such, depending on how big the areas were. And they would be cities of refuge for people, whether they be a Israelite or an alien. So it included the aliens. And remember, aliens were people who were not of the tribes, but were possibly of outside, but wanted to conform, wanted to be a part of Israel. And so they also followed the law, these rules. What does it make you think, and how does it make you feel about maybe being in this time? Are there examples of today? Do we have refuge cities, or does this carry out, or something similar carry out today? In my mind, I can't think of one. I can't think of anything similar to this. Because the only thing that I can think of now is we have video, we have a lot of stuff caught on camera. That helps, but when it's like a one-on-one thing, one person accusing another, it can be difficult. And so you have things like forensics, you have lab work, you have case studies, you have questionings, you have lawyers and detectives, and you have a whole judicial system and all kinds of things nowadays when it comes to issues like what we just read over, whether it be an accidental killing or an actual murder. But when it comes to cities of refuge, not necessarily. I do know that in other countries, like if you're a person of another country and something were to happen of a similar nature, could you go to one of your country's consulates, like in another country? Because a consulate usually is that area is represented by the other country, is literally of the other country. So it's within a country, but it's a consulate within another country. And there's maybe rights that are given if a person seeks out help from a consulate. What other things or items come to mind in this type of situation? Have you ever been in a similar situation, or know somebody that has been in a situation or something related to this, where maybe a city of refuge or something was needed? Okay, let's do a quick review over what information we read over. So we read over vengeance on the Midianites, because remember, Balaam and Balak, how the king Balak went to Balaam to have a prophecy or to curse the Israelites, but that didn't happen. They ended up with a blessing, and we saw how important it was. And now the younger generation is now taking vengeance on the Midianites, and they're getting rid of the Midianite people. We also learned that they didn't quite do complete destruction, as they brought spoils, including women and children. So they went to Moses, and Moses was pretty upset because of it. And so Moses went to the Lord, and they end up having to cleanse themselves, including the spoils. And so we also learned about the dividing of the spoils and how things were set apart. And because the army had went out and came back and no man was lost, the army gave to the Lord. They gave out of free will, out of their want to give to the Lord, out of their joy. And so they gave it to the Lord. And they gave gold, and they gave it to the Lord and the priests so that they could use it for the Lord. We also learned that some of the tribes, 2.5 of the tribes, wanted to go ahead and stay on the current side of the Jordan. They saw that the land was good, and at first they scared Moses because he didn't want them to have to deal with another delay in obtaining the promised land. And so they agreed to go to battle for the rest of the Israelite community. The 2.5 tribes agreed to go to battle and not be able to settle until all of Israel had the promised land. And that was agreed upon. And we also talked about how sometimes that can happen even in our life, how we see something or want something, but do we go to the Lord for it? Because the Lord is there to give us things and grant us things, even things that are beyond our heart's desire. The Lord goes above and beyond. We talked about the stages of Israel's journey and how important it was, how they had to wander in the desert, and how they went from place to place, even repeated some stops, and how that was important as a lesson to Israel. We learned about the boundaries of Canaan and how far their land stretched. Now that it was going to be on both sides of the Jordan and not just one side, as long as the 2.5 tribes followed through with their promise. We also learned about the towns for the Levites and how they needed area outside the town or around the towns for their livestock, so for the offerings. We also learned about the cities of refuge and how important those were when it comes to either an Israelite or an alien, for unintentional sin, unintentional killings. And so that concludes another Lamp Bible study. I thank you so much for following along. I pray that we continue to seek God's wisdom through the Lord's holy word. I will pray for you. Please pray for me. Continue to pray for me. These Lamp Bible studies come out every Tuesday and Thursdays and highlights throughout the week. I try to have at least a video every single day. And so continue with me on seeking God's wisdom through his holy word. That concludes this Lamb's Bible study. Thank you very much. So have a God blessed morning, God blessed day, God blessed afternoon, God blessed evening, God blessed night, and God bless. This is the bonus. So there's only one chapter left of Numbers. So I wanted to go ahead and go through that, even though I just ended the Lamp Bible study. But let's go ahead and give us a little bit more time, because it's much needed. Any additional time is needed, especially to spend with the Lord. So let's continue to read. I'm in Numbers chapter 36, and I'm reading from a Collegiate Bible. My name is James, and I will continue to be your reader of the Bible. Inheritance of Zelophehad's daughters. The family heads of the clan of Gilead, son of Machir, the son of Manasseh, who were from the clans of the descendants of Joseph, came and spoke before Moses and the leaders, the heads of the Israelite families. They said, "When the Lord commanded my Lord to give the land as an inheritance to the Israelites by lot, he ordered you to give the inheritance of your brother Zelophehad to his daughters. Now suppose they marry men from other Israelite tribes. Then their inheritance will be taken from their ancestral inheritance and added to that of the tribe they married into. And so part of the inheritance allotted to us will be taken away. When the year of Jubilee for the Israelites comes, their inheritance will be added to that of the tribe into which they marry, and their property will be taken from the tribal inheritance of our forefathers." Then, at the Lord's command, Moses gave this order to the Israelites. What the tribe of the descendants of Joseph is saying is right. This is what the Lord commands for Zelophehad's daughters. They may marry anyone they please as long as they marry within the tribal clan of their father. No inheritance in Israel is to pass from tribe to tribe, for every Israelite shall keep the tribal land inherited from his forefathers. Every daughter who inherits land in any Israelite tribe must marry someone in her father's tribal clan, so that every Israelite will possess the inheritance of his fathers. No inheritance may pass from tribe to tribe, for each Israelite tribe is to keep the land it inherits. So Zelophehad's daughters did as the Lord commanded Moses. Zelophehad's daughters, Mahlalel, Tirzah, Hoglah, Milcah, and Noah, married their cousins on their father's side. They married within the clans of the descendants of Manasseh, son of Joseph, and their inheritance remained in their father's clan and tribe. These are the commands and regulations the Lord gave through Moses to the Israelites on the plains of Moab, by the Jordan, across from Jericho. So now we see that the Lord is providing, again, additional detail and information to Moses through Moses about the women that were the daughters of Zelophehad, and how because he had no sons, still needed an inheritance. And remember, previously, including a previous Bible study, we talked that the daughters went to Moses before Moses correctly, and the Lord agreed with them and gave them information as to how they would continue with their inherited land. And so now, not only will they get the inherited land from part of the promised land, but they will also be able to keep it within the family, because the Lord has provided additional direction that was needed. And so these are the commands and regulations the Lord gave Moses. And that included the laws and the regulations, as well as the festivals and the feasts and the offerings and everything that the Israelites were to do from then on under the law, and that the Lord was residing right there with them. So you see that the Lord came through once again and made sure that these daughters were provided for. These women were provided for. And what kind of ideas or thoughts come to your mind when we read about Zelophehad's daughters? And how does that make you feel? What kind of things or ideas come to your mind? Is there something in your family that it may relate to? I know in my family, sometimes there is concern about inheritance. Not for myself, but for others in my family. They get very concerned and overwhelmed with inheritances. And some people, it goes that it's more of the person, the loss of the person, if the person is lost, than it is about the inheritance. But in this case, the Lord was providing and made sure that these descendants of the daughters were provided for and received their inheritance, just as the Lord had commanded. What kind of thoughts or feelings come to mind about this? How does it make you feel? What does it make you think? I want to thank you again for joining me in another Lamb Bible study. Again, just for chapter 36 as a little bit of bonus, so that Numbers is finished. The next Lamb Bible study will be on the book of Deuteronomy. So we're going to go to Deuteronomy, and after we finish Deuteronomy, again, this will be under with Moses and the Old Testament during Moses' time in the law. We'll go back to Genesis to cover Genesis before moving on to Joshua. And so with that, thank you very much. I continue to pray that we continue to seek the Lord's word together. Have a blessed morning, blessed day, blessed afternoon, blessed evening, blessed night. God bless.